You asked for it. I don't know why you asked for it, but you did. You asked for it multiple times. So here it is. What nobody is telling you about premarital sex. By girl defined. Just one of them. Just one of the girls that are defined in girl defined. The other one was like, I don't want to have anything to do with this shit. So I guess this is, hey, no WAP before marriage, okay? No WAP before marriage.
Guys, it's Bethany. I am so excited to be
This is Bethany, I guess.
here with you today, and this is a topic what no one is telling you about
Do call us. If you don't know what WAP is, then you are a boomer.
premarital sex, something that has
I never realized how emotional Music Box Music would make me, but here I am.
been
Hey,
on my
thanks,
mind
buddy.
lately, and it's really come up because I've done several Q&As over on Instagram, and a question about like boundaries, physical boundaries, pushing those boundaries.
Why is she so quiet, chat?
Those sorts of topics, premarital sex, sex after marriage, have been coming up a lot. And I figured, you know, it can be awkward to talk about those things. It can be uncomfortable, whether you're single or married. And so we just need to talk about it. Like, we just need to get the big elephant in the room out on the table and talk about it. Because if we are all thinking about it, and if we're submitting these questions about sex, about premarital sex, about boundaries, like kind of behind the scenes, we're like, oh, maybe I can submit this question on Instagram. And you wonder, like, is anyone else asking these questions? Well, let me reassure you, yes, a lot of you are asking the same sorts of questions. And so,
you know what's really
we're gonna have a conversation today. This is not
good. You know what's really interesting about this is that she's like, we're gonna talk about sex today. It's gonna be weird. It's like a bunch of fucking homeschool kids that never had proper sex education, and this is what you get. You get some trad life walking through a wheat field, weird ass lady who's like, a pee-pee in my mouth is too kinky. Like, and then she's gonna live a life of not only not having any like good fuck, but like nobody else who experiences it with her is gonna have good fuck. It's just a black hole of bad sex. We can't have that. We cannot have that. Okay? If you are gonna marry somebody, all right, you don't have to like fuck like rabbits or anything, but at least when you do a bang, it should be all right. Or if you're ace, it's fine, but you should still know about consent. You should still know about all the other shit. Like, come on. Like, we should be having these conversations much longer, much before you got a big fucking Christian ring on your finger.
not going to be super scripted. I have one set of verses that I want to share with you that have been on my heart as I think about this topic. The specific verse really in Romans keeps coming to mind. But outside of that, this is just going to be a conversation. So really casual, really down to earth, just kind of me sharing what's on my heart, and hopefully you being encouraged and challenged and just more equipped in the end to go forward and feel strong in your belief of what you want. Before we jump in though, I want to remind you that the online live Girl Defined conference happening on July 31st and August 1st is almost here, and I want to see
Why do they have a conference? They don't know things about stuff.
Breakout sessions with amazing
Why are they in charge of anything?
Topics that you are absolutely interested in. We base our breakout sessions off of things that you want to know. So everything from sexuality to guys and romance to missions to the topics of loving yourself, all that sort of stuff. Crazy girl emotions. And then we have a bunch of main stage sessions all on the topics of femininity, identity, worth, value, things that are crucial for this day and age. And you're gonna get everything as an online ticket holder. We have upped the package and you get absolutely everything. And if you wanna become a VIP, have a private Q&A with Kristen and I.
No one wants this. Why do people want this? Stop it.
You can grab that ticket. You can click all the details, girldefined.com/conference. Make sure to sign up so that you are a part of this incredible weekend with us.
I don't care about this ad.
All right. Let's jump in.
Thank you.
So for those of you who don't know me, I am 31 years old, and I was in multiple serious, intentional dating.
Intentional dating? What's the opposite of intentional dating? Oops. That I have a boyfriend? What? That doesn't make any sense. I'm 31 years old and I have never come. True.
Relationships before getting married. So my first relationship started when I was 19 and I broke up when I was 20 and my heart was absolutely shattered. And I, at that point had never experienced like a love kind of like relationship
Well, yeah, because you were yeah, okay.
ending, and it was just heartbreaking and shattered my world. And I learned a lot through it, and it was one of those things that a lot of us go through and experience. Most people kind of go through a breakup at some point in their life, and it's hard. And so from there I was in a couple different relationships leading up to eventually when I met I had known my husband Dave just as a very casual acquaintance and friend, and then eventually we kind of became friends in 2016, started dating. When did we start dating? Was it late 2017?
This is the most, how do they have subscribers? They're the most boring white bread pieces of shit ever. Like, they literally got nothing going on. It's just fucking boring. When I met Dave, was it 2016 or was it 2017? Well, in 2016, I was driving a Toyota Camry, and so, yeah, it must have been 2017, because by then I had the Chevy Impala. Yeah, that must have been it. Anyway, and then I would go to church every once in a while. No one gives a fuck. I'm going to fall asleep. I think the opposite of an intentional relationship is the normal conservative Christian arranged dating. Oh, nice.
Got engaged in 2018. Got married in 2019. Or did we get married in 2018? I don't know. I can't think anymore. We had to have gotten married in 2018. Yeah, 2018. Because we're coming up on our dear anniversary.
I'm losing the will, chat. I'm losing the will.
And then we just had a baby. So life moves quick.
You had a baby, huh? Nice. Does it have any opinions? Like, literally anything to save this dog shit.
To say the least. Obviously, I can't even keep track of all these numbers. Blame it on the mom brain. Anyway, so looking back, I have some very different experiences that I went through in my life. So I, by the grace of God, and not as like a trophy or something to hold on to, did end up saving sex for marriage, along with my husband as well. So our first sex experience.
Our first sex experience was the wedding night.
Was together on our honeymoon. And a lot of you ask about the first time, so I'll share a little bit about that.
I'm celibate now. No more fucking for your boy. That's it. Count me out. Count me out of the game. What's the opposite of a wop? It's a dap. A dry ass pagina.
And then rewinding though into a previous relationship, before I got married, this is something that I really want to hone in on, because I know a lot of you, when you're single and when you really want to be in a relationship, we can almost get like a little bit confused with ourselves, and we can almost take attention from a guy, really any guy, and any sort of attention as being very flattering, as being very like, ooh, he's really into me. And sometimes we get to this point where we really just want to have a guy notice us. We really want to be loved. We really want to be cherished. That boundaries that we have set in place, we oftentimes start to kind of push away because we want to keep the guy. We want him to pay attention to us. And if we're with a really great guy, he's not going to push those physical boundaries.
I'm dead inside. I'm just dying inside. That's all that I don't have like a big critique here. I don't have some like 5-head 400 IQ take to help you along your way. There's no hope. There's no hope. Like, all that lies ahead is more pain and misery. There's nothing I can do to salvage this for you. The straights are not okay. she makes heterosexual sex sound like the most foreboding, sad experience. Ah, yes. The courting. One day you see a young chap, a strapping chap with a decent job in the Midwest, and you go bowling together, and then by the grace of God someday he will inseminate me, and we can have a child, and I will have done my duty to the Lord, and then I can die. Does he eat the box? Like, what's going on? Like, does he do anything that you like? Do you do anything he likes? Are we talking about sex, or are we talking about the vague notion of sex?
He's going to actually pursue, purity, and he's going to honor you and respect you, and he's going to want to preserve those boundaries because he knows that that's what's best, and he wants to honor God, and you're not going to have to force him to do that because for himself, he wants to honor God. But not all relationships are like that.
Not all relationships are predicated on the idea that there's a magical entity that gives a shit when you are physically aroused. He gave you that boner at 15 to test you, Timmy. You know all those times you were looking at the dirty mags and you had your little pee-pee went boing? That was only a test to defeat the devil. Not because our natural response to evocative material is to respond.
And so I know that for me, I was in a relationship where that wasn't the case. He wasn't wanting to honor me, but I didn't realize that in the moment because it's very confusing and you don't have all the pieces to the puzzle until afterwards. Oftentimes when you break up or whatever.
He didn't want to honor you. No, he wanted to hit it. And you were apparently not communicating, hey, I'm a Christian and I don't like that. I don't want to. And then if you did communicate it and he still did it, it wasn't because he wasn't trying to honor you, it's because he's rapey and gross. But I can't imagine she was equipped with the tools to properly communicate consent, which is the problem here. It's the problem. If you don't want to have sex until marriage, you fucking go for it, okay? But you should have the tools in your tool bag to understand consent. It's important to not only yourself, but other people. You should be able to understand, like, hey, other people don't feel the same way I feel about the fucking sanctity of fuck, okay? Some of them aren't religious like me, and I'm going to have to understand that when dating, and I should set the boundary early on. If they try to cross that boundary, even after being informed of such, they're a scumbag, and they shouldn't be. I shouldn't continue. But, like, when you don't let your kids know about sex, it sounds like either A, there was just no fucking communication to be had, or B, there was communication, and she didn't have the ability to understand that those boundaries were being crossed until much later, which is dangerous. You want people, regardless of whether they're men or women, it doesn't matter. You don't want people to be ill-equipped in regards to consent, dude. We need to teach this shit. Luckily, she said that she was a virgin until the night of her wedding or her honeymoon or whatever, which is good. Which means she probably didn't experience sexual assault, which is thankful, very, 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 very good. However, not understanding consent, you can accidentally. There's a form of consent that isn't consent because it's more out of ignorance, right? Like, I don't want to, but I feel obligated to do so because I don't understand that I can revoke consent, that kind of stuff. Sadly, that kind of shit happens when you don't teach your kids about sex. And maybe the person that does it, maybe, I don't know, she's dating some guy, Tim or whatever, fuck him. Before she got married, some guy on the way to finding Dave or whoever she married to, his name Tim, and he also doesn't understand consent, so he doesn't understand that by pushing boundaries, that's a bad thing. That's not to excuse any behavior necessarily. That's just to know that, like, out of genuine ignorance, because you don't teach your kids about sex, you can have really bad situations come up on both ends of it. One can be a perpetrator, one can be a victim. Both can be perpetrators, both can be victims. I mean, it can happen. So you really, really, really need to fucking talk to your kids about sex. I don't care how fucking uncomfortable it is. You just need to fucking do it. It needs to happen.
Ever happens, you look back and you're able to see a lot more clearly. And for me, that's exactly what happened in the relationship. Even though we had clearly set boundaries, whether it be through texting or just in person, there was always this pushing me to say more, or maybe do a little bit more, or talk about, things that were supposed to be clearly off limits and stuff that I had expressed I didn't want to be talking about or didn't want to do.
Yeah, see, she says that she set limits and stuff like that. Not necessarily because she knows anything about sexual education, which I definitely think she does not know, but because the other person clearly didn't know anything about limits. She didn't know how to express the fact that, hey, you're crossing boundaries. This could be like, why do people that talk like this? Why do they buck against feminism and the left and like the way that we want to approach this stuff? This would satisfy you wanting to save yourself until marriage. Talking about sex and being open about it is not, it doesn't run in opposition to saving yourself for marriage. In fact, it's purely valid. However you want to have sex, whenever you want to have it, whether that's never or at a specific time, after marriage, before marriage, like with whoever, as long as it's consent, like, that's fine and valid. That's what the left, and when we talk about sex, that's what it's about. It's about understanding these things so that you can set those limits with other people and have the ability, the words in your lexicon, the tools in the tool shed, so to speak, to discuss these things in a way that's safe, to make sure that you are safe and to make sure that other people are safe. Just fucking like, I hate religious people that like otherwise, and again, thankfully, she didn't seem to have like supremely negative experiences besides like pushy teenage boyfriend. But like, holy fuck, this could have been a bad situation. And she doesn't seem to fucking understand that at all. Which is really bad because she has a big platform. She got 156,000 subscribers or some shit like that. They have a platform big enough to where, Christian kids listen to this shit. Use that platform to teach people about consent and stuff.
And it was so confusing because...
Isn't it sad that basic sex education and the concept of consent are considered left-wing? Yes, it is.
The words are being spoken about.
It is sad. I agree, it should be apolitical.
How much they care about you, but at the same time, they're pushing these boundaries that you've clearly said you don't want to push. And what I learned through that experience is that when a guy is pushing boundaries that you have clearly expressed that you don't want to push, he is... Or
when anybody is pushing boundaries. Doesn't just have to be guys. I know that we over here in Het Boyville, cishet Boyville, I know we get a bad rap, but let me be 100% honest. I've had bad experiences with ladies as well, okay? Ladies that were quite pushy and it wasn't okay, all right? So I mean, like, just so we know, consent goes both ways, and I understand the people that are like me, that I share a demographic space with. We're definitely the number one perpetrators of this shit, okay? But don't let that mean that, that you don't have to watch out for people that aren't like me, okay? Or yourself. Make sure you're not doing it too.
He's not loving you. He's not respecting you. He's not honoring you. He's loving himself. And he's respecting himself, and he's putting his needs first and putting his wants first. And it doesn't matter if he is saying, like, I love you, I care about you so much, I just can't help myself. No, you can help yourself. You're making decisions and you're making choices and you're putting yourself as the most important thing. You're letting your emotions and these desires within you to rule, and you're not having self-control. You're not seeking to honor God. You're not seeking to honor the other. You're doing what you want to do and fulfilling your selfish wants in the moment.
I don't like the term honoring each other or God. It's like that's the really, really wrong take.
That sounds really harsh, but even if we act that way, that's what we're doing. And so in a dating relationship, and I'm talking specifically to you as a Christian girl, we know that God has called us to wait until marriage to have sex. And God's not holding out on us. It's his perfect design, and sex within marriage is God's best design.
That is not biblical. That's not biblical. Sex within marriage is not what happened. For the record, as a person whose career has been based around reading the Bible, that's not biblical at all.
Does that mean it's always going to be easy or easy from the beginning? No, but it's a beautiful journey that you and your husband, who have committed until death do you part, you have committed to each other within the covenant, and that's where sexual intimacy is supposed to take place. So anything sexual intimacy-wise before that is not God's best design, and it's not what he...
You didn't get the talk until a week before I got married? I bet you didn't get the talk, though. I bet you got, like, here's what happens, PP and VV, right? But did you get to talk about consent? Did you get to talk about revoking consent? Did you get to talk about how one or the other could affect someone else's consent? Did you talk about sexual health in regards to disease? Did you talk about the different applications of sexual expression? Like, definitely, there's not the talk, right? The talk is not, if you got P and V, you could make BB, right? Yeah, right. I know, I assume you were raised by fundies when you said you didn't get to talk to them. But that's what I'm saying. Like, we need to redefine what the talk means.
He has for us, and if you are committed to that, you're not going to want to be in a relationship where you're constantly being pressured. I know for me, it took me a while, even though we didn't have sex in that relationship. My convictions and my boundaries and what I wanted was definitely pushed and definitely compromised. And looking back, I'm grateful that I got out of the relationship when I did. But if you are in that sort of relationship, it can be very manipulative. It can be very confusing. And so I just want to really, really encourage you and challenge you to think about the fact that...
I feel like it's also manipulative to say you can't have sex until you marry me, for the record. I think that's pretty fucking manipulative as well. Because it makes people make rash decisions and not understand the gravity of them. Not a big fan of that shit either. Hot take, the real way to honor your partner is to satisfy any kinky need they have. Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, if they communicate that shit, and it would behoove you to try. Though that said, if you don't like the kinky thing, that's also valid, so it's fine. I don't think I've had a single serious conversation with mom or dad, let alone a conversation about sex or who I'm dating at all. I learned that in school. You should have this conversation with people that you're with. In high school, we had to choose a topic to research and present something we wanted to change in school. The people in my group and I made an entire presentation on why our school in Wyoming needed LGBTQ plus sex education, just better sex education in general, such as warning signs of abuse in relationships or even how to have safe sex. That was fun to present, especially when the first question you get after your presentation is if people can get exempt from that. Wow. Why do you want to be exempt is my question. No. I think, I again, like, when I was teaching, I was like, hey, so what's the sex education like here? Because that's very important to me.
Marriage and relationships truly are supposed to be about honoring and serving the other. They're supposed to be about pushing the other for the other's best.
My kids have already had the talk. Hot take. The talk isn't good enough. It needs to be the dialogue. It needs to be a through line. Like, there always needs to be space for discussions of sexual health and consent and relationships and toxicity and lack thereof and the good, the bad, and then parents need to get the fuck out of the way and understand that sometimes kids irrationally like or love each other. and they're just gonna have to fucking, like, let them make mistakes. It's okay. Obviously, don't be like, you know, Timmy's selling heroin, and he shoots guns at children. Like, okay, don't date Timmy is a reasonable thing here. But if you just don't happen to like Timmy, I mean, get over it, because you can't like tell your kids what to do. I know a lot of parents want to tell their kids what to do. You can't. And it doesn't matter if it makes you uncomfortable. It's irrelevant if it makes you uncomfortable, because it's not your shit. All you can do is equip your child to make good decisions. And if you stop bucking against their shit, you're probably going to have a pretty good kid. That's going to grow into a pretty good fucking adult. One that knows limits, knows boundaries, and understands that they have personal freedoms and personal boundaries themselves. Like, they should also have privacy in your home. I mean, there's just so many things that go into raising kids that I never want to deal with, because kids are stupid. But I'd be a pretty good dad.
It's supposed to be about making the other closer to Christ and helping the other person to thrive. And that should be true within a dating relationship, and that should be true within marriage. Even sexual intimacy within marriage is at its ultimate best when each of you are thinking of how you can love and serve the other. When both people are doing that, it makes the most incredible experience. But within a dating relationship, if a guy...
Okay, but you're not talking about sex, dude. You're not talking about sex. What no one is telling you about premarital sex. You're not discussing it. You're not discussing premarital sex at all. You're talking about relationships in general that are adult in nature that don't have sex. This isn't about premarital sex. What are we not being told about premarital sex? Are we going to be on topic at all?
Pressuring you to compromise and pushing you.
What if you have more than one significant other, though? What's that? I don't know. Are you talking to her?
Pushing you closer to Christ.
I don't think anything I said runs counter to that.
No, and I want to encourage you, if you were in a relationship like that, to take a serious look at the relationship, and I would really encourage you to kind of put things on major hold and be open and honest with somebody.
I will not be your dad.
Advisor, an accountability partner, a youth pastor, your mom, whoever it is, a godly older woman who can help you to see the relationship more clearly, who can help you to remove yourself from the relationship. And I just want to encourage you not to be so desperate for a guy's attention that you are willing to lower yourself and you are willing to be used by him just because you want to keep him.
I tend to agree with that sentiment, but not for the reasons she does. God damn it.
If you feel that at all, that is not a healthy situation. That is not a loving relationship. That is not a healthy, God-glorifying relationship. That is you being in a relationship where a guy is now using you to meet his needs and desires, and he is not putting you before himself.
I don't think being sexually attracted to someone is a bad thing, and I don't think expressing sexual attraction is a bad thing. The idea that you can't be like, hey, I am attracted to you sexually. Like, in whatever way that manifests, but really the sentence is, I'm attracted to you sexually. How can you be like, okay, so there we have shared adult attraction, and I would like to do the things with you. That's not bad. It's okay to communicate that. And in fact, I would prefer people communicate that in a more broad and open sense, right? Like when you share attraction to somebody, in whatever way that manifests, and you're both consenting people, preferably consenting adults, but I mean, like, kids fuck each other. Kids fuck each other. It happens all the time. Like around 13, maybe a little bit earlier, preferably not, but maybe a little bit earlier. Once that puberty hits, they're fucking each other. Or they're sticking it in something, grabbing it and yanking it around and slapping it, whatever it may be, whatever you got going on. It's happening. Kids are coomers. It's okay. Just make sure they're not being groomed. No groomers, only coomers. But either way, whatever I don't know, if you just have sexual attraction to somebody, first of all, it doesn't have to be like hella serious. It doesn't have to be end of the world. It doesn't have to be like this. It doesn't have to be love. It's just a sexual attraction. Two friends that fuck. That's pretty much it. As long as you respect one another's boundaries, you respect one another's preferences, you respect one another's consent. That's all it is. That's the whole thing. It's part of the human experience. It's part of life. It's part of moving forward in life. And I don't know. People get really I don't know, they sanctify it a lot, and it's really strange. It's really fucking strange to me. Too ace for this, but it applies to ace people as well, right? Because they have to satisfy your consent. So if you are ace and you're like, you know what, it makes me uncomfortable to have sexual interactions with people, cool. But there's some ace people that are like, I don't desire sex or sexual interaction, but if you want that, I want that. There's some ace people that like that. I mean, like, so, you know what I'm saying? It's not one size fits all. So yeah. Just loins. See, the fact that any of you are getting blushy right now is why you should stick around. If any of you right now are getting uncomfortable because I'm talking about consent and sex, and we're talking about relationships and fucking, you shouldn't leave. Because you need it's part of that's part of it. That's part of the inborn, like, if you get the ickies, that's not good. That's unhealthy. You shouldn't get the ickies. It should be very comfortable and normal. You should be like, yeah, okay, sex and sexuality exists. Here's how it is. Here's how I experience that. Whether it's ace, whether it's straight, whether it's bi, pan, whatever. It doesn't matter how it manifests in you. You can understand sexuality, consent. You can understand how other people engage with it, and that's the point. Like we need to get the ickies out. We can't have people having the ickies about something that is like pretty much every person experiences, whether it's alone or with other people. You experience sexual feeling, most likely, or you experience other people having sexual feelings. Right? Well, the odds of you avoiding that altogether are incredibly low. We need to talk about it. My glasses aren't dirty, Stark Raving 666. The glasses are scratched. I'm gonna fucking punch you in your neck hole. Huh? Huh? COVID happened because you fuckers won't wear a mask, and so I had to put off my eye exam. So I can't get new glasses yet. Piece of shit. Punch you right in your fucking duodenum.
And if that's what's happening in the dating relationship, if you were to get married, most likely it's only going to get worse from there, because that is a character issue that needs to be addressed and fixed kind of outside of, you need to be kind of removed from that situation. And I just want you to know that God, you are his daughter, you are his redeemed daughter that he absolutely loves, and he wants better for you as his redeemed daughter. He does not want you settling and compromising because you want to feel worthy.
No, I can wear a mask. I just had to put off, when COVID happened, I had to put off my eye exam because everything shut down.
Invaluable. No guy ultimately can give that to you. Your worth and value only can come from Jesus. And so you need to be a complete woman saying, no, my worth and value comes from Christ, and I don't need you to be happy, actually.
Ugh.
That's honestly the best way to go into a relationship.
It's really not. What you just said here was incredibly ugly and gross. You should not get your self-worth from the fact that Jesus exists. Please divorce yourself of that thought. You're valuable outside of Jesus' existence.
Is by saying, like, not in a selfish, cocky, worldly way, like, I don't need you to be happy, but I am so complete in Christ that if this is not the right thing, I am more than happy to give it up in dating. That's when you are going to be the strongest and healthiest and the most prepared to end the relationship if it's not going in a good direction.
You can try.
So my basically encouragement to you is to remember that if a guy is pressuring
it is
you to
quiet.
compromise,
I can't
that's
turn it
not
up anymore.
flattering, that's not a compliment. He's not into you. He's into himself, and he's using you to get what he wants, and that is not the type of relationship you want to be in. You want to be in a relationship where a guy truly honors you, he cares about you, he loves Christ, and he wants what's best for you, even if that means denying himself. Now being married to a wonderful, godly man who seeks to love me and push me forward, and who really seeks to serve me in all ways and wants my best in all ways, even in the area of sexual intimacy, I feel so loved and valued and cared for.
Does he eat the box? We need to know.
And there is so much beauty and there's no shame in our sexual relationship. It's absolutely amazing. It's a journey we're still learning.
Yeah, you have nothing to compare to. I agree. He wants everything that I've ever wanted. How do you know? How do you know?
We're still growing, but the beauty that is there because we're both seeking to love and serve the other is like nothing else. And that's so what I want for you. So please don't settle. Please don't stay with someone because you feel desperate or you just want to be loved. He doesn't really love you, and that's harsh to say, but I want you to be with someone who actually genuinely loves you and is willing to honor your boundaries, honor your convictions, honor the things you've put in place, even if he doesn't understand, because he cares about you and he values your heart, he values your opinion, and he wants to cherish you. That's what I want for you. So
I don't really understand this fucking like this cherish thing. I don't like the words she's using here to describe her relationship. Like there's this like pedestal that a person is put on. You can love someone very, very much and understand that they're a fallible human. I don't know. There's something grody to it that I'm not a big fan of. Don't put the P word on the other P word. Wow. Don't put the vagina on the pestilable. Yeah. Yeah.
please think about that. The passage that comes to mind is Romans 12, 1 through 10, and it's this.
Does it come to mind, or did you read it off of the thing that you just looked at? Doesn't look like anything came to mind.
Passage that's talking about how we as Christians should offer our bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God, which is our spiritual act of worship, not to be conformed to this world, but to be transformed by the renewing of your minds, that we may test and approve what is the good, pleasing, and perfect will of God. So this whole idea that we are God's servants, we are here to honor him, we are here to use our bodies, everything within us, to live for the glory of God. It goes on to say how we shouldn't think of ourselves more highly than we ought. We should love others fully, and how we are the body of Christ, and how each of us has a different gift and talent, but we're all ultimately, as the church of Christ, the body of Christ, we're to come together and with our unique gifts and talents to serve God more fully. So
that doesn't freak you out at all? We have to use the best parts about us to serve God more fully. Yeah. Serve the shit out of God. That's what it's about. No yikes from you? Your brain doesn't go fight or flight when that shit comes up? That's weird to me.
Everything about being a Christian is ultimately about giving and serving and loving ultimately what Jesus did. He came not to be served, but to serve. He's our perfect example. If you fast forward in the passage, go to Romans 12, 9 and 10, specifically verse 10, it says this: be devoted to one another in brotherly love. Outdo yourselves in honoring one another. That last portion of the verse, outdo yourselves in honoring one another, is the key that I want you to remember in your romantic relationships. That should be the key, whether we're dating, engaged, married. That should be our mindset, and that should be the mindset of the person that we are with, that we would outdo ourselves in honoring the other. When a guy is asking you to have sex, if he's saying it's not that big of a deal, this boundary is really stupid, is he outdoing you in honor? No, he's not honoring you at all. And same for you. If you're pressuring him or pushing him to do things he doesn't want to, are you out?
Like, go to church? Just saying.
Doing him in honor. No, we need to outdo each other in honor by honoring the boundaries, honoring God's word, what he has set before us, even if we don't fully understand, honoring the people around us. That should be the tagline of every relationship, would be to outdo the other in honoring one another. And specifically in the area of sexual intimacy, premarital sex, we need to outdo the other by honoring God's word and honoring them and saying,
Are you sure it just doesn't mean out-fuck each other? Like, really give it to them good. If the other person's body shuts down, you win. That's how it works here, chat, okay? Mind and body, full convulsion. and then the body shuts off. They're a prisoner in their own flesh due to pleasure overload. That's what this really means. That's how it works. Okay? When you can't stand, when your legs are just destroyed from too much cumin. No, not the taco seasoning.
Saying no to premarital sex, not because it's bad, but because it's good, and God has a perfect place that He has created for sex to be within. So we are going to honor the other by saying, nope, I'm not going to do that because I know that that is not God's design for this, and I'm going to wait. And
God's design? Hey, a well-timed follow by Charmhole. You've picked a good time, my friend.
If you are not going to honor that, then see you later, buddy. So anyways, that's kind of what is on my mind. I've been rambling, but it's something that I feel passionate about, and I want the best for you. I don't want you to end up with someone who does not cherish you and love you. I want you to, I just want the best for you, and I want you to be with a man that truly honors you and truly wants to outdo you in every single way. And
this is a terrible video. This is just a fucking terrible video. Everything about this video is stupid. She's bad. How do they have an audience? They are very, very boring. I would rather watch that corny-ass Christian couple. You know the one I'm talking about? The names are probably like Tara and Ryan or some shit. You know the ones. You know the two.